There you go.
I think we're live now. Hi, everyone. I'm Kathi Mitchell, and thank you for joining us for our Zoom Scorekeepers meeting. And I'm here with my compatriot, Carole Mathes.
Hey, Carole.
And I believe somewhere on here we have Jean Carter as a representative of the Referees Oversight Committee. And so we hope to just kind of run through a few things to help make our tournament run smoothly and to help everyone do the best work that they can so we get really accurate score sheets and post-game reports. And we're all a very important part of the officiating crew. I think I'll turn it over to Carole, and she will, I guess before I'll show, this is the folder, which many of you have seen that I put together that has kind of the schedule on that court. Inside, you will have the score sheets that are clipped together, and they're all clearly labeled. And then something new that we've been talking about was, in other words, sometimes people have trouble hearing or seeing the home and visitor on the score clock. So I put little, you can choose to use them or not, but little white and then the color of the other team's penny that also matches their score sheet that you can tape on the clock, but they'll cover that when we get to that a little bit more. And then there's also a sample score sheet inside, and the page for the clock people, which we'll talk about when we get to there, and then the page for scorekeepers, the duties, and the rules for team. So now I'll turn it over to Carole.
Okay, Michelle, can we get that first score sheet?
Okay, I've got a KSW sample, NT PGR, and score sheet sample 1. So number.
It's the one.
Score sheet sample 1.
Okay.
It doesn't have the scores on it yet.
Okay. Just a moment. Let me share my.
Okay.
Your chair squeaks.
Okay, here it is.
Okay, so if you're keeping the paper score sheets, your score sheet will look like this when you first receive it, and Kathi has filled in a lot of the information that you normally might have to fill in yourself. But the team names are up there, the captain's names, the venue, and the roster for the players and their numbers. That will all be filled in when you get it already. Notice the things in yellow, which need to be filled in after the game: the captain's signature, the final score, the winning team, and referee initials. You will also need to print the referees' names before the game begins. Okay, you want to show the next one, and then I'll go over it in more detail.
Carole, I will also tell everybody that is a scorekeeper, which they probably already know. You may have to chase down that captain to come sign it, or the referee to come sign it. So don't let them get away.
I was always trying to figure out some kind of a fun incentive, that you got when you came and you signed your sheet. I may come up with something creative yet because I've got time to do that.
A little bag of candy or something.
She always works.
So Carole, is it the one with the handwriting and filled in?
Everything's been filled in.
Yeah, it's number 2 and 3. They're together on a scan.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, this is it. Okay, so this is showing everything you will need to fill in by the end of the game. You filled in the scorekeepers' names at the top, and you'll have 2 names put in there. And we've added the clock person's name also. And then again, you have to put in the referees' names and those three things after the game. Below that is a running score, so you just keep track of that, go in case, so you can check with the clock person quickly if your scores coincide, and hopefully they always do. And to the right of that, in the little box, are the abbreviations for granny down, technical, defensive jumping, uniform, and injury. And those need to be filled in the quarter where they happen. And Kathi has examples of those on here. Possession error, you need to mark also in the first half who will be getting the ball. And then as it changes, you need to mark those out in case there's a question about that. So down by the players' names, you have the column for personal fouls. You need to mark those out each time they foul and make sure you are marking the right person. And after they have three fouls, as Manhattan Marie does, you need to make sure that the referees are aware of that because they are out of the game at that point. So for the first quarter, Topeka Tilly made 3 baskets and 1 free throw. And you need to write the numbers for those, not tick marks.
And actually, folks, you won't believe it, but at the Iowa Senior Games, I had one person that we needed to retrain because they did tick marks. And my question to her was, so when you look at this, how do you figure out what's a 3-point shot and what's a free throw? So she went back and redid it, and I think she'll remember it.
Hopefully.
No doubt. Okay, so then Kathi likes to put each quarter in parentheses, how many points they made, and she's even got me convinced of it. So that makes it easier to add up your scores also. So Topeka Tilly made 7 points, and Lenexa Lexi made 4. And then at the bottom of that column, you need to put the subtotal. There were 11 points total. So the score so far is 11. Wichita Wendy had a uniform violation. You see the U by her name, and that was, she was wearing a watch, and that is noted at the bottom on the line, that first line at the bottom, and we'll get to that in a minute. Manhattan Marie had a granny down in the first quarter, and apparently she was okay then, but in the third quarter she did have an injury, and that's noted at the bottom also. Olathe Ali had a defensive jump, and the first time that is a warning. The second quarter she did it again, and at that point that is a technical foul. So those need to be marked also. As we go through the second, third, and fourth quarter, you just mark the same way for the baskets. For granny shots, Topeka Tilly made a granny shot in the second and the third quarter. So that's a 3, and then the free throws are 1. So just add all those up in each quarter as we did in the first quarter, and you can add across. In this game, we also have an overtime. So at the far right, before that final column, is marked that Topeka Tilly was one of the shooters. This was a sudden death free throw. Topeka Tilly made her shot, so there's a little 1 by her name. Who is this? Selena Sue did not make her shot, so she gets a 0. And Lenexa Lexi made hers, and she has a 1. So there were 2 points for 3 free throws, and those need to be added into the total score.
And those were actually covered over from the back that you will see next.
In the far right column, you have the total points for each player, and then those add up at the bottom. And then also add the points across, and those 2 should add up to 52 for this game. If they don't, you need to try to figure out where the mistake is so that Kathi or I doesn't have to try to figure it out. And in this game, back up for the final score, this team lost. But their score, even though they lost, goes first because I'm doing the Kansas Swish Kebabs, and their score goes first, whether they win or lose. Okay, at the bottom, For the abbreviations and explanations, Kathy's just written pretty much what I said as I went through it, explaining about the defensive jumping, that the one player removed her watch. Underneath that is the total granny shots made was 2, free throws made was 8. Also right above that is total fouls. You need to add those up. If there's rules, controversies, ejections, other infractions, you need to note that. And she has that the game was tied and that you see that on the back. And then she explained about the injury on that bottom line. Okay, on the back, which is at the bottom of it, here we go.
There we go.
Okay. If you fold your score sheet back, if you can do it very carefully, and mark, Picatilly was the first shooter and she made a point. And then Casey Kate would have been the 4th shooter, but they didn't get that far. And so Lenexa Alexi was the number 2 shooter. She made a point, and Selena Sue did not make a point. And Manhattan Marie was ineligible because she had 3 fouls. So she made a note that 2 or 3 were made. The other team made 3 out of 3, so they won. And then again, those points are put back on the front of the score sheet and added in. What did I forget, Kathy?
I don't think you forgot anything.
Carol?
Anybody have any questions?
I have a question. When you're doing the running score up there, remind them if they make a 2, make a basket, you mark the 2 off. If they make another basket, you mark the 4 off, like you have done.
Yeah, skip count.
Don't mark every number.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So you remind them about that.
To follow up on that, and I thought this was part of it, but maybe I'm wrong. On the running score, at every quarter, we divide it, make a little tick mark in between there, and we initial that. So if they scored 11 points, we will draw a line there, and the referee will initialize that also.
The referee didn't know what's going on.
They have to verify the score.
Yeah. Where is
Another-
the referee verifying the score at each quarter? Because I don't see them putting their initials down in the running score down at the bottom, the subtotal. You usually initial the subtotal.
Well, and that's usually where I've seen referees do that. Not all referees do.
I
Well-
thought it was mandatory.
Yeah, that we do 2 things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've done I usually do that too. Put a little mark at the end of the quarter on the running score.
Okay, well, that's a good thing because that makes sure they're paying attention.
And I don't know
think-
that I've seen that as a formal rule, but I could be wrong.
It's on
Yeah,
the,
it's a best
It's a
practice.
good it's a good practice. Yeah.
It's the best practice. Okay.
One
Kathy,
thing,
just a couple things I wanted to jump in on. One is at the quarter and verifying the scores. If there's a discrepancy between the clock and the paper is the authority.
Correct.
Yes.
So just because the clock might have a different number, you don't adjust your paper to match the clock. The clock will need to reflect what you have on your paper because this paper is the official score. The other thing I wanted to point out was the possession arrow. We get a lot of questions around the possession arrow, and it's not marked on here.
Right.
So what I would recommend, let's say
I didn't
home-
pretend that they threw the coin.
Yeah. So let's say at the beginning of the game, home has the ball first. So it's kind of set up where visitors first here. So I would, if I was keeping score, I probably would mark this box out
Yep.
with my pencil. And then when the home throws the ball into play, I would mark that out right there.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
then you've got your running score. And then you probably have to do the same over here again. But if visitor is the first has the ball first, all you would need to do is when visitor throws the ball in, is go ahead and mark it there.
And then it's automatically set up in the second half.
Yeah, and then the other team would have the ball at the beginning of the other half. And you can help the referees if they forget, like who's supposed to have the ball when we come back at the halftime. You can look at your score sheet and help.
We never forget, Michelle.
I know. But once in a moment, we have a granny moment. But anyway, just for whatever that's worth, I know we've had a lot of questions on the possession arrow.
Also, on the possession arrow, on the clock, there is a possession arrow.
Oh, nice.
And it's easy to do. So we've got that also to fall back on.
So this is Dinah. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
So could you say a little bit more about the possession arrow? Because there's like 5 boxes there. Is it the first box is the first quarter like that?
First half.
The first half.
Well, they're by halves. And there really isn't usually a whole lot of change of possession. There used to be about 25 boxes for it.
Only if there's many jump balls.
Jump balls. Or double fouls.
Double fouls.
Double fouls goes to possession too.
Yep.
Or a wedgie where the ball gets stuck in the rim or something, or
if a referee, Michelle, I'll throw in, if a referee doesn't see who the ball went out of bounds, they might use a possession arrow for that.
Exactly.
True.
I've yet to see on this new score sheet us run out of boxes for possession.
No, we haven't.
That doesn't mean it won't happen.
Yeah.
And just to clarify for scorekeepers, how the possession works between quarters, like between first and second quarter and between third and fourth quarter, it is whichever team has possession of the ball will return to the court with the ball to throw in. So we don't mark the possession arrow between first and second quarter and third and fourth quarter because they just keep possession is kind of how that works.
A lot of times the referees will set the ball on the side of the court.
They want.
Yeah.
But I guess we need to make a mental note of who had it last.
It's really the referee's job to do that.
But it helps.
But it wouldn't hurt to pay attention in case you get asked.
Yeah.
And you may be talking about this, Carole and Kathy, but one of the things that we really stress is that when those 3 refs step out there, the 3 people at the clock at the table are part of that team.
Yes.
So at any point you have a question, stop the game.
Yes.
You have control of that. To make
use
sure
the
that
horn, use a whistle, do whatever you need to, make sure that official timeout happens.
You have a voice.
So if I'm running the clock and we can't tell who made the foul, who made the score, I can stop the clock at that point and ask the question.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't you have to let
if you got the clock,
know?
if it's got a horn buzzer on it, because that will get attention. Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't the referee have to know? And that's the person that actually stops the clock.
That's what I thought. The referee had to do it. But.
I just added quick.
If you blow the horn, they're going to turn around and stop the clock.
Right.
And I say a little trick to everybody. I don't know if everybody knows this. The small different paper clips are good to put on the score sheets for their, because we don't necessarily know their offensive people. And then when you look down, you only have to look at 2 names instead of trying to figure out their name and number in everybody. If you just put those paper clips on the ones that are out there at the time, then it's easier to look.
Some
down
people put like a little asterisk and pencil. Yeah, I think different people have their own technique. There will be plenty of those small paper clips because I like to have those to clip the 2 pages together at the end of the game, and then they're clipped together when you get them.
We have added the paper clips to the folders that we prepared for the tables.
Thank you, Bert.
Doesn't the clock stop when you have a foul anyway?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, there shouldn't be any. Yeah.
Well, that still means the person has to turn around and give you their number.
Yes.
That
Right,
doesn't always happen. So in my last message on Team Reach, it was to remind everybody, we did not assign, but if your team has the capacity, add another player to be the spotter to help you with the numbers.
We do.
Whether it's shooting or fouling, it's nice to have that extra person to help you get those numbers.
Because the
'Cause you don't
shooters
know
the shooters don't turn around and show their numbers.
No.
And they're subbed in and out so fast, it's hard to keep up with who they are when you don't know the players.
Extra pair of eyes is always good.
So question, Linda, are the scoring tables at the end of the court or in the middle of the court?
Middle.
Yeah,
Ooh,
see, that'll make
good.
it a lot easier.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Are they
I got a
scoring what?
question.
I didn't hear what you said
Oh, I said that's a really good thing. I love that.
before that.
Oh, I said that I asked because at the Iowa senior games, the scoring tables are at one far corner. I asked whether they're in the middle, and they are in the middle,
Okay.
Linda said.
Got it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
question. Do we keep up with the timeouts? Sometimes we write down what time a timeout is called.
Oh, I did forget
Do we
that.
keep up with that?
I'm not worried about that, but if you're in the habit of doing that, that's fine. I don't record it for anything.
But there
That's
is
a good thing to
box
do.
there.
It's a
Yeah.
good habit.
Yeah.
There is a box for it.
Yeah, there's a box for it under the quarter. First quarter, second quarter, there's a timeout. You only get one per quarter, so they only put a box there. But if you write the time down or the score down, then the coaches say, I didn't call timeout, but you can show them that they call timeout at a certain time or a certain score.
I've only done that once. What are you talking about, Mallory?
That's why we started it, Linda.
Can I make a comment about technical fouls?
Yes, please.
A lot of the scorekeepers are not aware that technical fouls are personal fouls unless they're jewelry or uniform or flesh. They are also a personal foul.
Or a bench foul is not a personal.
No, a bench foul would not be.
Yeah.
Because you don't have anybody you can assign it to, but on the others you have a person that's involved.
Well, if you notice on there, Olathe Ali got a foul for her 2 jumps.
And that counted as her foul?
Yes.
But you can't tell if she had another foul or not.
Yeah,
you know, if she'd had another personal or not. We've just had it come up in too many games and said, "Oh, I didn't know that was that a technical was a personal." Yeah, it is.
Yeah, when you do a personal violation or a flagrant foul or something like that, then yes.
Okay. We've got a question in the chat asking to explain the running score again.
Okay, the running score, if they make a foul shot, you do the 1. Then the team makes another shot, a regular shot, and it's worth 2 points, you mark the 3. You don't mark every single box.
Oh.
Okay? So
and if they make
the
a
first
granny,
shot
they
of the
skip
game
to
was
6.
a foul shot. We marked the 1. But here you got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now when it's 10, they had a foul shot. That was Topeka. She made her foul shot. So you only mark the 11. And then the next 2-pointer, you mark the 13. So you know.
And there's a 3-pointer in there too.
There's a 3-pointer in there also. So that's how you mark the score sheet. But you mark the player scoring before you mark the running score. Always mark down there first, next to the player's name, before you do the running score. You can always catch up on the running score.
That's a good point, Marilyn. Yeah, and that's usually what I do too, is I always make sure, that actually came in handy in Des Moines.
Yeah.
Because there are a couple times that, yeah.
Sorry to step on your toes there, Kathy.
Nope, not at all.
I presume we're supposed to do this in pen, or can we use pencil?
It should be in pencil.
Carol prefers
Yay.
pencil. I'm a pen person.
Either one, I guess.
And there is whiteout for anybody else who uses ink.
If you've done it over and over again and you know what you're doing, you can use pen. But if you have not done it before and you're not used to it, I suggest pencil.
Yeah, because you can erase it easily.
Kathy, what did you say that you got on to somebody about doing like tally marks or whatever? What was that again?
Oh, when you do the tally marks, you know, like tick, 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 and then cross for 5, those don't make any sense on a score sheet because you can't differentiate between a 1-point shot, a 2-point shot, or a 3-point shot. And it says very clearly in red above the third quarter thing, do not use tick marks. It clearly says 1 for free throws, 2 for regular baskets, 3 for granny shots.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And I'm really surprised that we still come up with people who are doing that after all this training that we've been doing. Which is also the reason why later on we talk about table management, why we want scorekeepers to sit side by side so that you can guide and coach each other. And that was a case where they were sitting on other opposite sides of the clock operator. So the one who was doing it correctly wasn't looking at the sheet of the one who was not doing it correctly. So she did a whole game. Which also means that probably referees didn't check at the quarters. I don't know.
Right.
It's just a lot of things, but it's a nightmare trying to decipher a sheet that has tick marks on it if it's not caught right away.
And Kathy, I might add on, we've got some really good scorekeepers out there with lots of experience. So if your team is one with some new scorekeepers kind of getting into this, early in their scorekeeping career, ask for help, ask for a coach or a mentor to sit with you for a while, make sure you're off on the right foot, answer any questions you might have. I know there'll be someone sitting around that could help. So
well, and Carol and I should be available at any time.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have people ask and get some, get some help if there's any questions.
And I will say that I know for at least some of the Texas teams, because we got 2 at the table, I've really been pushing for all of these new folks because some people only have one person. Make sure they're doing the training on the website before coming so they have a better idea of what. So if you're coming into this meeting today and you have not done that, strongly suggest you look at the training on the website.
And also this sample sheet is in the packet, where the score sheets are too.
I would like to make a comment about the scoreboard. There is a shot clock section on the right. If you set that at 0, and always make sure it's at 0 when you start the clock, it should not be a problem, and it won't like go off in the middle of your quarter, which can happen. If set it at 0 and make sure it's at 0, not have a problem.
I don't know where we're getting to that.
There's a plus minus, seconds plus minus to adjust it to.
As, thanks for bringing that up, Mary. And I don't know what we're doing about the scoreboard thing, because I put it on the Facebook page and the Team Reach, that you can go on and look at the video, which is maybe a minute and a half. It's only a small part of that board that you're dealing with. And there's a small green stretch to the right. There's a little bit of yellow and blue that you're dealing with. And it's simple.
It is
up and down, up and down. Either way you go, it's up and down. And once you see it in action, you're going, oh my gosh. Don't look at the whole thing, is all I'm saying. There's only a little bit of it you're going to be
She's
using.
been on the bench for a while. I mean, she's been playing in the W, I think 2 years now. Can't think of her name though. But she's been on the bench. I was wondering why they didn't want to play her.
I'm sorry, I missed all that.
When the video, or excuse me, when this recording is ready, and we can send that out to the team captains to share with all the scorekeepers for the score clock, we could include that link to that video.
Well,
it's
we
just
have-
a really short introduction to the scoreboard, or the score clock.
Well, isn't
We've
that going to
already-
be part of the scoreboard operation part?
Well,
Piece of this?
I jumped. Sorry.
Okay, so to partner along with that is in your folder, there will be the administrative duties of scorekeepers. And basically that's all the things that Carole went through that you want to look at on your score sheet ahead of time. And then on the flip side, the back side of that, are the rules that you may be coming up with that pertain to scorekeepers. So we've tried, actually Carole did this beautiful document, and so it kind of highlights some of the things that you might come up against. So it's a quick down and dirty look at what, you know, you might need to check out as a scorekeeper.
And those are all in the folders.
Yep, that'll be in the folders.
There's two sets. There'll be two sets. There's two sets
so
of
it has
them.
all to do with scorekeeping. But I think, Linda, you have separate copies of the full referee rules.
Hang on, guys. There are some folks that are talking over. We need you to mute if you're not.
I'm hearing some baby talk.
Yeah.
Or puppy talk, one or the other.
That's
the
the
folder.
one for
The folders.
scoreboard.
We prepared the folders. The folders have this TIFF. There's going to be one copy of that for the scoreboard operator, and there's two copies of that other one, that 2-page one that you just showed.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be one for each scorekeeper to have. Each time they come sit at the table, they'll have it to go over. And there's a set of the rules printed in each folder.
Right.
Those
And
are
they'll be
prepared.
duplicate because I always have those as part of the score with the score sheets.
Okay, well, we were asked to print them, so.
What was I going to say?
I got company just surprised at my house. I'm gonna have to step out of this meeting. Mary, I'll touch base with you tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Hey.
I have one more question about the scorekeeper video. That was in the video, the person was marking the fouls on the scoreboard. Do you want us to do that? We have not been doing it in league games.
No.
Okay, we will not do that at the tournament, correct?
No. That's more for the bigger teams.
Right. Thank you.
We have 3, they have 5.
We can do that easier.
Right.
Yeah.
Just wanted to.
Well, we don't get into team fouls, you know. We don't have fouls where you go into one-on-one after 7 fouls, or well, actually, they've changed all that now. It's like 2 shots after 5 fouls in a quarter or something like that.
Yeah, at 2 minutes.
The last 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy, one of the things I would mention is for scoreboard, and we'll get to that in a minute, that team I was talking about, I am still finding scoreboard people stopping the clock for a turnover. We need everybody helping each other. You know, you don't stop it for a turnover. Especially
the T doesn't stand for turnover.
Yeah.
I would like
suggestion for that is to teach these clock operators to watch the official. The official only puts his hand up or her hand up for a foul. If I blow the whistle and my hand's not up, that's a violation or a turnover or out of bounds play or over the line, or whatever. If I put my hand up, that's a foul, and that's when I turn the clock off. That's what we need to teach our clock operators, to watch the officials. And tomorrow night on the referee thing, I'm going to stress that quite well, that the officials have to put their hand up for a foul.
Can I also make a comment?
Not violation.
Or a timeout.
Yes,
Several
can I
things,
also make a comment?
Yes.
In regards to that, if there could be a copy for the clock operator for our hand signals, because as a ref, I have put up my hand to stop the clock and they don't recognize it. So it becomes where I have to wave or holler at them to stop the clock.
Okay.
Well, that'd be easy to just copy that page and put that in.
That's a good suggestion.
On the back side of the TIFF sheet.
Yes, and circle the ones that the score clock operator has to recognize. The rest of them, there's not that many, but if the ones that are supposed to be identifiable, particularly when we raise our hand to stop the clock, that would be helpful.
That's the only thing that they need to recognize is the hand up.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the rest of the other hand signals would be to help the scorekeepers with the
that's
fouls and recognizing.
And the other hand signals are a communication to the team coach.
Yes, and the table.
Well, the table is just a number. All they need is the number. They don't need to know what happened. So you got three things. The clock operator, you stop the clock. The coach, pushing or touching or hovering. For the scorekeeper, the number.
And that we're calling a foul.
Report. And those are the three people that you need to communicate to.
Well, a timeout would also stop the clock.
Well, a timeout, that's a technical. Timeout is here.
Yes.
Okay, this is a technical, this is timeout.
But I think a copy of the hand signals would be a benefit to the persons that are there at the table.
And that's real easy to do. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Also, I would like
Great
to add that whoever is running the clock, they need to pay attention to when play starts. Because like when we were in Iowa, there, as a ref, there were several quarters that started. And we had to pause because the clock operator didn't actually activate the clock. So it goes both ways in that.
Right, exactly. Good point. Clock operators do have to pay attention. It's not just watching the game. And they need to start the clock when the ball is touched inbounds.
Yep.
Not when you hand it off to the girl in the center circle.
Once again, I'm going to reiterate, this is all about teamwork. It's 6 people out there on that team. And if you don't communicate with each other in the right way, people aren't going to get it. So you need to know what to do.
Can I say something about starting the clock? Just saying one thing about starting the clock. When somebody's got it out of bounds, I always hold my hand up. And when they throw it in and then they touch it, I drop my hand to tell the clock keeper it's time to start.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And I just say one thing when, because we end up with a situation, and Jane, that was the situation there where you had someone new trying to learn the clock. And when people are yelling at them, that doesn't help them at all. That makes them more nervous. I've had one person, start that was really pretty good learning clock, and people yelled at her so much that she doesn't want to do it anymore. So we need to be encouraging and not, demeaning when people are having, are in that learning phase. And and like I was talking with Carole earlier, there are some people that probably should not be running clock. If there's someone who has a difficult time focusing their attention and, being able to, block out anything else that's going on and just focus on the referee and whatever, then, that's a good person to have, running the clock. But if it's someone who gets easily distracted, they're not the person who should be running the clock.
So Kathy, on that note, I think it was brought up earlier about table management. So what's your advice to scorekeepers about who can approach the table and ask a question and when?
Well, we
And
kind of had that at the end.
create that and how to create that barrier, if you will, so people leave you alone and not distract
Well,
you.
I'm pretty good about setting those boundaries, and I think you just have to say, excuse me. I know we had a situation one game during the Iowa Senior Games where they had 6 people around the table, and that there were so many errors on that score sheet. You remember that one, Carole?
Yes, I do.
And so, you can have too many people. So you need to have the number of people that, Carole and I, when we do it, we don't usually need a spotter. We're usually just fine with the clock person. A lot of times when we do the championship game, it's Carole and I and Brian Seguenza, who's like a savant on running the clock. But if you have too many people, then there's a tendency to have too much conversation and have distractions and everything. I know during the Iowa games, I was saying to one of the persons that was helping us, I go, nope, we got to pay attention to business here. We need to focus on the game. So you have to not be afraid to say that, and hopefully people who are part of your group are not going to be offended by that, because it's only meant to make us the best scorekeepers that we can be.
And when do you allow, say, the bench or the captains come over and ask how many fouls somebody has, et cetera? When can they do that?
Usually that's during a timeout.
Okay, or a quarter, in between quarters?
Yeah, in between quarters, yeah.
Okay.
Usually only the coach can approach the table. No other players, just the coach.
Or the captain with the yellow armband.
I was going to say, some teams don't have coaches. They've just got captains.
Okay.
Captains.
So the captains, coach or captain.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a head referee who will be doing the hand signals, or do we have to watch all of the refs for
Good question. It's a good question.
All the refs, if they make a call, the ref who makes the call will approach the table and announce what they called. Okay? So if the official on the sideline calls hovering, then they're going to walk toward the table and say, hovering, number 5, whatever, it might be a shot, just one shot, whatever. But that's the procedure for referees. Whoever makes the call will put their hand up.
Okay, they'll signal to stop the clock.
Right.
Thank you.
That doesn't mean somebody.
If you hear a whistle, you look at the 3 refs. If one of them has their hand up, you stop the clock.
Now that doesn't mean, just because some of us don't talk as loud, that you won't hear the middle ref repeat what they said.
Right.
Or at the table, if you didn't hear what it was, to ask for them to report. As you guys can all tell, I worked at school, so I have a voice that can carry. So there usually isn't too much trouble. Kind way. But yeah, I mean, that because it's all important that all gets clarified, that everyone understands who it was called on, what it was, and that it gets recorded accurately.
Jean Carter does a wonderful job at that. She repped many games at the Iowa games, and you knew immediately, and as scorekeeper, what was going on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're all trying to be Jean Carter. Believe me, we're all trying to be as good as she is.
No.
She's
It's
my
always
idol.
Nope. Some days you have good days. And sorry, my son and my grandbaby are here, and we're trying to eat supper. We ran a little bit late today. Thank you for the kind words. I am not the best out there. There are some days that I'm really, really good, and there's some days I'm really, really bad. A couple of things that at this discussion that I wanted to throw out. Unfortunately, not all referees use hand signals. I'll turn my video on for a minute. Not all referees use hand signals. So you may only have one referee on whoever the referee team is that will use the hand signals. So if if they're not using them, a scorekeeper should say to the referees, hey, can somebody signal because we're having a hard time seeing, or just something like that, so that they can get better in the habit. I know in Iowa, I saw some referees never use the hand signals. So, and then the other thing, yeah, we're working on it. The other thing I do as a referee, and it may be advantageous for the score table to ask for a referee to do that. If I'm going up and down the side, so I'm underneath the basket and I will yell 23 for 2 or something like that. So the score table can also hear who that shooter was that made that basket. And it just is a double check, I think.
I want to make a quick comment. Jean, I was playing in probably most of the games that you refed, and I was also scorekeeper in a game, and I really appreciated your communication. She made it very clear what was going on.
Thank you. I am not a teacher as Kathy was, but you can hear me across the football field. So there you go.
Which goes back to, it's all a team. The 6 people out there have to talk to each other. So if the referees aren't communicating to you, the scoreboard team has to say, hey, I need your help.
Well, the clock operator can be a spotter for you, you know, so that's what we try to. I was a scorekeeper timer for our games, and I always let them know who scored.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I did on Team Reach today was to put out a message to all the teams. We didn't say you had to do it, but it's recommended that when you put 3 on the table, you also ask another team member to be the spotter to help you with the numbers, whether it's fouls or shooting.
And Team Reach is an app that all the national tournament team captains are on. So hopefully they're getting the information on to you, but we'll be sending information out to you as well. Before our hour's up, we're just a time check. Has everyone received a copy of the schedule? Has your team captains forwarded that to you?
Yes.
Okay. And so just wanted to be sure you noticed that there were officials assignments. So when it says ref, it really means officials. It's just ref is shorter. But officials mean referees and scorekeepers when it's your team's turn to keep score and officiate. And then you can see it real clearly on the pool schedule. And then when we get to bracket, you really have to pay attention. And I don't know if someone wants to kind of describe that, or I could pull up one of the brackets if we want to take a look at that. We just want to be sure we're not on the microphone calling for scorekeepers and refs and people think they're done and leaving, on Sunday. So just need to be sure y'all know how to read it and that and I think on the brackets, Marilyn, I think we cross-pollinate across divisions. So like Hotsy Totsy would officiate in another division, not their own.
Yes. The Hotsy Totsy will officiate on Sunday, Saturday afternoon and Sunday, the championship division. The champions are referees, the Off Your Rockers. Off Your Rockers are officiating Hotsy Totsy on those cross divisions.
Mm-hmm. And then if your team loses, you're probably, the first round will be pre-assigned as to what your seating is in your pool. And then if you lose, you'll probably officiate the next game or something.
Well, if you lose, you're going. If on the first round, if you lose, you're going over to the consolation. If you win, you go over to the championship side.
Okay.
And it all depends on who, this is just the pool play. Here we go. It all tells you who's officiating. Loser game. We got the first round is the loser of game 1, H, Hotsy Totsy. See, this is the championship bracket. And
let me go down because I think Offer Rocker starts first. That might be easier to look at.
Yeah, off your rocker. See, it says pool E.
Yeah. I think maybe let's look at Hotsy Totsy because it's cleaner.
It's pretty simple. Yeah, because there's 8 teams. That was the simplest bracket. So the first round, if you were in pool E and you were the first place team, you're going to be officiating that game. All the officials on the court and the officials at the table. And if you were in pool E, second place, you officiate the next game, the 3:15 games. These all games are going to be at 3:15 on the first round for Hotsy Totsy. And the off your rocker teams are the ones officiating. Anything else you want to know?
And Carol and I will try to keep that up with team names as much as possible.
Okay.
Okay, that's good, Kathy.
Hey, Kathy and Carol, I have 2 quick questions. First, and maybe I missed it, are we 5-minute halves for everybody, or are we doing a minute between, or?
I thought it was 1 minute and 4, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so just is that in the scorekeeper packet that will be at the table?
Bert, is that on the timing?
I will make sure that there's a document that has that on it.
Okay, that'd be great.
Isn't it on some of the?
It should be on the
score sheets or
score
your
sheet
schedules.
Thing. The tip. It should be on tip.
And the program has it too.
So that's okay. It's just as long as everybody, when they get to the score table, the referees in the score table all know what's going on. And then the other question, there was a question in the chat about how do you want to designate a bench foul? I don't think it needs to be designated on the scoreboard, but how are you, or she said, sorry, she meant the score sheet. How are you designating a bench foul on the score sheet?
Just put that on the bottom section.
Down at the bottom somewhere, jotted in there.
Well, it says like for the T's, so you put the T and bench foul and what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Most bench fouls are technical, so you put a T bench foul, and
that's
the bench was obnoxious.
Again. So mouthed off to that Maryland wall.
So one thing, like, so when you're all done and you get your score sheets all added up and signed and everything, what's the closeout procedure? And then how do we need to do the clock? Do we need to set the clock, a running clock for the next game to begin, or any thoughts on that?
Well, I think we have a runner, right, Linda, to take the score sheets to Kathy?
Yes, we have volunteers that take it back and forth.
Okay, once the game's over, are we gonna set a timer, like Michelle said, for 5 minutes warm up?
Well, that's something we hadn't talked about because we don't know how much time is between games, because it's set up for 15 minutes, but if somebody runs over, we need to still start on time. So
it would vary on the court,
yes.
according to when the previous game was over.
Will we start ahead of time?
Well,
yes.
The problem is if you're reffing and doing the the scoreboard or the table on another game, and that's going to be a problem.
I agree with you, Bert. I don't think
because we're back to back on ours.
Yes, you are. And I don't think if you're reffing 9:30 Friday morning and you play at 10:45, then you might, if it runs over, you may not get over there to warm up and stuff like that. So I don't think we ought to start early, but try to start on time.
Marilyn,
So
it's
if you-
Marilyn, it's not warming up, it's having a chance to go potty.
Okay, true, true.
So should we
be
put
just
a
a matter of-
commode in one of those dressing tents?
Yeah.
We can put a
It
bucket
can
in
be a
there.
matter of just being able to get from one court to the other.
Right.
Well, they'll be close by. They'll be close. But like, so let's say the 9:30 game ends at 10:30 and it's scheduled to start the next one at 10:45. Then you'd put, say, 15 minutes on the clock.
No, you put 10 minutes on the clock and then have your captain's meeting at when that buzzer goes off.
So you're
Okay.
ready to
Get
play.
started.
Yeah.
If it's 10:40, the next game's 10:45, you got 10 and you finish at 10:35, you only know to put 5 minutes on that clock.
You get
Before
everybody
you
ready
leave.
to go. It's on time.
Yeah, be ready to go.
So question, do we have access to that video to go ahead and put that on, the scoreboard video, since it's not very long?
Do I have access to put that on the video? No.
Yeah.
Because that was pre-made.
Okay.
All we have to do is just try to put that message out. Which goes back to the scoreboard. Like I said, I'm going to say on the scoreboard video, and like I said, it's not long, 2 minutes, and there's only pieces of it that you have to understand, and it is up and down, left and right. There is no, on the time, it's minutes, up and down.
Mhm.
On the,
Can I make a comment?
hit the button, what?
So if the scorekeeper wants to
here's the-
see the clock, they have to step up and walk around to the front of the table, correct?
I'm sorry, say it again.
If the scorekeeper wants to see the score totals, they must get up from the table and walk around to see the score board in front of the table, correct?
No, it's going to be on the wall.
I was going to say, I thought they were hung.
They're on the wall. All
They're
right,
on the wall.
double checking. Thank you.
Yeah.
Since
So-
we did that, can I say something? I've had my hand up and it's getting pretty sore hanging up in the air
Well,
like that.
nobody sees that, Sarah.
Oh yeah? Well, I was trying to be a good student and put my hand up and wait, but
It doesn't work that way.
we've had games in Texas here where the score sheet did not match the score board.
There's more to love with YouTube Music Premium.
and
Listen
the
to ad-free
scorekeeper,
songs and
I'll
Discover
wait.
podcast anytime.
What's going on?
I don't know.
Anyway, I don't
ahead,
know. I was
Sarah.
talking. Anyway, as I was saying, the scorekeeper would sit there and say, "Oh, my score sheet does not match the scoreboard," and they start writing numbers in on the score sheet after the quarter is over, and you cannot do that.
Nope.
Yeah, if it's not there, it's not there.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and at
May
the
I say-
time that you start becoming discrepant is the time to stop and say right away, wait a minute, we're not matching up here. What's going on?
And you asked the referees to come over and check.
Yes.
The other thing that I have run across in that particular situation is sometimes the scorekeeper gets distracted and they're not paying attention. And that's when you have to evaluate if the scorekeeper is the right person in that position. And I don't mean
Can
anything
I-
ugly, but you have to take that in consideration.
Can I ask a question?
What is vital is what's on the score.
Sheet.
Go ahead, whoever had the question.
So, so say you've got your referee team, scorekeepers, timekeepers and everything, and the game is over. Do we put the time, the 10 minutes or whatever on the clock, and then before the other scorekeepers get there? Does that make sense? I mean, I'm just saying, if we have to go to play, we're not going to stick around and wait for the other scorekeepers. Like, hopefully they're there. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think that sounded like what you guys decided, wasn't that the previous scorekeeper will set the 10 minutes
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Yeah.
Is that what everyone else is understanding?
Yes.
I think that makes sense, Kathy.
And if you come to a score table and it's not running, then go ahead and set it up. Look, see how many more minutes until time for the game is scheduled to start, and back that off 5 minutes, because when the timer goes off, the captain should be in the circle doing their coin flip.
And again, when someone brings up that there's a discrepancy, it needs to be dealt with immediately.
Then.
We like to,
and don't be afraid to say, wait a minute, I've got a different score on my sheet here than, you know, I mean, don't be afraid. We're supposed to be problem solving together.
we have a lot of times our score sheet person will announce the running score when they mark it, and then the person running the clock, and they're all together. You know, when there's a score, we hear it and we mark it, and we try to stay together from score to score, you know, from basket to basket.
And I see Joyce. So when a team does have issues with the accuracy of the score sheet, yeah, you need to stop and you need to address it, because in the case with her team, it didn't get addressed. And so we had an inaccurate score sheet, and it was so noted in the post-game report.
Can we reverse back to fix the timeout for the next game? I think it makes more sense for the crew coming in, because we start the clock and they're still playing.
Waking up.
You were fading in and out, so I didn't hear all that.
It was kind of garbly, Joyce.
I usually don't have this much problem with my audio. Going back to who starts the clock for the next game, I think it makes more sense for the crew coming in to set the clock.
Yeah.
Hey, Joyce, shut your video off and try again. Shut your video off and see if that helps.
I heard what she said.
Okay.
She said that it would make more sense to have the group coming in handle and set up the clock instead of the group going out.
Yes, I agree.
If the group is there, you don't agree.
I thought it
just
was just
passing
the
it along.
10 minutes that was going to be already logging on the clock.
Yeah, one thing that happens is at a tournament, sometimes people miss their assignments or something, and we need to have that clock running so we can kind of see where we're at, because it's easy to fall behind schedule if no one's really and we're out there, we have our watches off, and it's just a little bit challenging. So it is nice, I think, for the scorekeepers before they leave to go ahead and set that up there, and that way if it goes off, we know we're getting past schedule. And we need to rally the troops somehow. And that can happen real easily. Just everything going on. And that's not to say when you get there, you need more time. You could go ahead and add a few more minutes on the clock.
So what you're saying is whoever's leaving the clock and going to their next place, set the time. But if they get through at 9:30 and the game starts at 10:45, they put 15 minutes on the clock before the leave. And then if the 15 minutes goes off, the next team knows.
10. That 5-minute cushion so that they can toss a coin before the actual start time of the game. Was
So
my
10
understanding. I could be wrong.
10 minutes is what y'all said a while ago.
Okay. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
And then that gives you 5 minutes for you to do the coin toss.
Okay.
Oh, some teams like to take a picture of the scoreboard. Okay, just a time check, Kathy. It's almost 5 after 8. So if there's any other questions for Kathy or Carole.
If you want to pull up real quick, Michelle, at least so they know what the post-game report will look like. You guys don't have to do it, but you are the key piece of providing the information that goes into this. And so I did a post-game report that would go with that made-up score sheet that will be in your folders.
Okay. Stand by.
Kathy, you're adding some more paperwork to the on-table stuff. Make sure I got that right.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
get that, the hand signals and just put that as a standard piece of the backside of the TIFF sheet for the people that run the clock.
Okay. Kathy, make sure they're appropriate hand signals.
So no
Sorry,
blow off
just
or
had to
praise
say
up
that.
or whatever kind. Okay. So yeah, this is just basic, you know, and all the information is on there that was on that sheet, that the score sheets that were there, although I only had the one side, but this one I kind of made up the other side too. So and for us to be able to do these when we have games that we don't see, we are dependent upon the paper score people to make sure that they accurately write down everything, you know. And so like, okay, for instance, I had a game that was one of the games in Decorah that a person was severely injured, and I went back to find out, because I did all the post-game reports, it was not written on any score sheet that she was injured. So I called them to find out, you know, what had happened, what the result was, because she had to go in for an MRI and everything. But yeah, if they're, you know, write it down. I mean, even if you aren't sure, write it down, you know, because it may be important, especially if it's something like an injury.
Yeah, I
Anybody
think
else?
it's to add on to what you're saying, Kathy. I think it's helpful for the post-game reports to also include whether the player returned to play or did not return to play.
Well, and this one obviously didn't. She went to the ER for X-rays. Yeah, and so I've had sometimes with injuries that I followed up and updated a post-game report like 2 days later or 3 days later. That was the one, the lacrosse player that did a face plant on the first game, because she had to do some follow-up work, you know, not just the day of the game, medical stuff. And so we did get a addendum, you know, to kind of add in there.
I see a picture of Carla Desper on mine. Is she face planted?
Not
Sorry,
fun,
Carla.
is it? Okay, you can pull that down, Michelle. Carol, is there anything else that you think we need? We started to do table management. We've things have kind of gone out of order, but that's okay.
Right. I think we probably covered about everything. We had, looks like from our score, yeah, again, the paper scorekeepers will be sitting side by side, scoreboard on the end. It's easier to help each other that way. And just about not too many people there and maybe standing around, because they can get in the way of what you're seeing or what you need to see. And then just pay attention to the game, your responsibilities. Knowing the rules helps a lot, and knowing what's going on in the game and maybe helping you document it.
And like I said, I think most of the resources that you need to double check things you might not be sure of should be in the score sheet folder. So,
and I
but I
will
think also Linda's got those too.
I will iterate on the score for the scoreboard operators. I went back to Team Reach and went to try to connect to the YouTube, and it didn't connect. So I'm asking Scotty to fix that. At the same time, the YouTube on the Facebook is working. So anybody that's doing the scoreboard, all they got to do is watch that, and you're going to see how much more simpler. People were asking me for directions. And I'm going, it's 1, 2. It's just really, really simple.
Linda, the
yes,
link
ma'am.
to the YouTube is in the chat. In this Zoom chat. If you check your chat, there's a link to the YouTube. So if you guys want to copy it or pull it up, and you watch it when we get done here.
Okay, because I saw it on Facebook, but I couldn't get it to pull up on Team Reach. although it was there. So
Well,
anyway,
it pulled up for me.
well, today it didn't. So
Okay.
Anyway, it's there. It's simple, and if it needs to be, if they get there early enough on Friday, we'll go over it.
That would be nice because I think hands-on is kind of the best way to learn.
Yeah.
Get a feel for it.
That's my learning skill. Okay.
Did we want to go through how the overtimes will work?
Oh, good question, Carol.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, well, we did a little bit on the score sheets, but yes.
Okay. During pool play, it will be sudden death overtime for all the teams. For the bracket play, the Alpha Rockers and Hotsy Totsies will also use the sudden death free throw for the overtime. We'll go directly to that. For the championship bracket, it will be how it usually works with the 4-minute periods, the second overtime, and then go to the free throw sudden death.
Yep.
Sounds good. So do we have anything else? Any questions or things that we need to cover or suggestions? Or if you think of something later on, please either text or email Carol or myself, and we'll do the best to answer your questions. And I will be sending out to all the team captains a copy of the master score sheet for your team to check for errors, because yes, I do make mistakes. So, but also, you can make changes. I'll probably I'm going to print the score sheets, I think, on Wednesday. So, cause I'm going to be leaving like 3 o'clock in the morning on Thursday morning and drive down. But even then, when I'm there Friday night, if there is like an emergency change or something like that, I can do that. Not a problem.
And they should probably also know if there is a change, that player needs to be on the roster before the game starts. Needs to be on the score sheets before their games.
Well, and anybody that adds has to be on the official roster. So you can't just add.
Well, so far I think we're up to date, but I ain't guaranteeing tomorrow.
Oh, it's kind of the thing I've learned, Linda. I used to print like a week ahead of time, and I have learned, It's easier to just print once than to print 3 or 4 different times.
Well, thank you, Kathy and Carol. We're just so excited for Nationals. I think it's going to be a wonderful time. And thanks to all the Texas hosts for putting it all together for us. And we'll see you guys in Fort Worth.
Bruce is putting the magic touch on the little footstool in front of the big rocking chair that has your logo on it.
Well, thank you. Everybody have safe travels.
Yeah.
Thanks, you.
Everybody.
See you all in a week or so.
Not long.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.